All right, cube one. Let's go ahead and model it in SketchUp real quick. So to start off, we need a square. So I'm going to use the rectangle tool. That's R on your keyboard. And I'm going to come out here in this space and click once and then move my mouse away. By doing this, I'm indicating the general direction that I want the rectangle to go. And my dimensions are going to be 3 inches by 3 inches. So what I'm going to do is type 3, 3, and then press enter. That should then make a perfect square, which is 3 inches by 3 inches. Now the material thickness that we've been using for these cubes is 1/16 of an inch, so I need to extrude this vertically. So to do that, I'm going to use the push-pull tool, which is P on your keyboard. I'm going to click once on the surface and then let go, and then just move my cursor up, which is just indicating the general direction that I want the extrusion to go. I'll then type 1/116 or 1/16 and press enter. That makes my board 1/16 of an inch. Now it's really important at this point that I don't keep this as individual elements such as edges and surfaces, but I instead group them together. So to do that, I'm going to triple click on the object, which selects all of the connected edges and surfaces. Then I'll right click and hit make group. Side note, if you want to make group a keyboard shortcut, come over here to the dog and search for group. Here's make group. Just come over here to this spot, which yours should be blank. Click in there, type G, and now if I undo this for just a second, triple click on this and hit G on your keyboard, and it does the exact same thing without having to right click and then click on that tool. Now, depending on how you modeled your cube one, this might look a little bit different, but what I'm going to do is sort of treat this like a sandwich. And so I'm going to draw just a temporary line that starts from this bottom corner and goes up. If you hit the up arrow key, by the way, it will lock your line in the blue axis. That's kind of useful just to ensure it's perfectly vertical. I'll then type 3 and enter. And now I have this little reference line there that's kind of handy in that I know that the very top of it should be 3 inches. So I'm then going to copy, with this one selected, this board. Now it's critical that I pick the right point here. So if I think a little bit ahead here, I know that I want the top surface of the copy to be at the top of my line. So therefore I'm going to grab from this point and start to move it up. To make a copy with the move tool, just tap Control. I'll then position that at the top of that line. That ensures then that the very top of that is 3 inches off of the ground. Now I don't need this line anymore, so I'm going to click and drag from right to left and then hit delete to get rid of that line. It was just temporary. Next, I need the walls. So there's a couple of different ways that you can do the walls. I'll do both methods to start off. So first of all, I'm going to switch to the rectangle tool, and I'm going to come down here and click on this top point to ensure that my board starts from there and then goes upwards. Now in this case, I can use my arrow keys to lock it in either the green or the red. So we're going to lock it in the red in this case. I'm going to position it here at the bottom point, not the top one, but the bottom point. That ensures that that board is in between my top and bottom pieces. Next, I'll use push-pull, push it in, 1/16 of an inch, and then don't forget to make it a group. Now the first method that I'll do is I'll copy this over to the other side. I grab from the bottom left point there to ensure that it's perfectly lined up to get my parallel vertical sides. Lastly, I'll come in here to this inner corner, click, and make my last rectangle, which goes to this inner corner. Now it looks okay from this side, but if I look from over here, you can see that it doesn't have any thickness, and you know that because it's gray on that side. So what I need to do is use push-pull, push it in. Now you can't see that I'm pushing it, but if I turn on X-ray mode with X, I can push it in. And I'm going to type 1/16, press enter. I'll turn X-ray mode off, triple click on it, right click and make group, or use your keyboard shortcut of G. Lastly, I'll copy it over from there to there. So my cube one is all done. It's pretty good. We're seeing the joints between the pieces. If we look closely, the top and the bottom are 3x3s. This side and this side are 3 inches long by 2 7/8 tall. and this side are 2 7/8 wide by 2 7/8 tall. What we want to do is we want to color code these. So we're going to come over here to our materials library and just choose 3 different colors for the different parallel sides. So I'll choose blue for this side. I then need to get the parallel one, make sure it is blue. It looks like they're already selected, so that works out. Then I'll do gold for these parallel walls. And I'll just go ahead and leave the top and the bottom as white. So that looks pretty good. Now, I was going to do another method here, so let me just copy the top and the bottom over real quick, like this. So another way that you could do this would be to do your walls, just like we started out before. I'm going to push it in 1/16. But instead of this extending the full distance, what I'm going to do is actually push this one in 1/16. This is going to allow me to slide in another wall here and ensure that all the walls are the same size. So in other words, all 4 will be exactly the same dimensions, rather than with, in this example, the yellow ones were longer than the blue ones. So I'm going to triple click on this, make it a group, and then in this case, I could copy it over, but it's not actually going to be in the right spot. So I'm going to do another tool now, and that is the rotate tool. And that's going to be Q on your keyboard. So the way the rotate tool works is you first want to select your object before you start it. And then we need to set both our starting position and our orientation for how we're going to rotate it. So this is where using your arrow keys will be useful. If I do the left arrow key, you can see that my little gizmo here changes to be in the green direction. So if I click now, that's where it's rotating around. Click a second time to set my 0, and now you can see that that's how it's rotating, which is not what I want. So I'm going to hit escape and then end the command. Now I'm going to try it again, but this time I'm going to lock it in the blue with the blue arrow, or with the up arrow, excuse me. Now I want this to be centered on this board. So one way to do that would be to hover over the midpoint on this edge for roughly 2 seconds. Start moving my mouse away. Then I'm going to come over to this midpoint on the left side. Again, hover for roughly 2 seconds. Then I'm going to move my cursor in, and fingers crossed, there we go. We found the exact center of that board. I'll then click. That determines where my board is rotating around, but I haven't set my 0 angle. So I just need to pick somewhere, let's say that's perpendicular with this board. That's fine. I'll just click. And now you can see I'm starting to rotate it in the proper direction. So what I'm going to do is rotate it here. And just like with the move tool, if I tap Control, it makes a copy. I'll then click to make my rotational copy. Now I want to do that 3 times. So this is going to be a rotational array. It's critical that you do this right after you make the copy. But now, if I type 3 followed by X and then enter, it multiplies that same rotational movement 3 times, which is awesome. So now you'll see that each of these boards are all the exact same size. All I need to do now is color code them. So I'm going to go ahead and select this one and this one, color those ones yellow, select this one, and color them blue. So 2 different ways to model cube 1. Either one is correct. Do whichever one you like.